Hello, Internet. This is Sophia, the Red Angel, doing my best effort on this channel to produce content that is worth your time to watch and listen to. In part one of this three-part presentation, I began answering the question of what is wrong with unsubstantiated beliefs by giving a fictional example of a community of people who believe that their apartments are homes not just to themselves, but to invisible pink unicorns who are also inaudible, intangible, and in every other way undetectable. I explained how problems can arise when people try to feed their non-existent pets, and the 4 different ways that the believers in these amazing beasts might react when they observe the food left for the unicorns remaining uneaten. Not going to repeat all that right now. If you missed part 1, there is a link to it in this video's YouTube video description area. Then, in part 2, I began discussing a real-life example by describing how fundamentalist and conservative Christians do active harm to the LGBTQIA community, not due to any actual malice, but completely due to irrational beliefs. Again, this video will be too long if I repeat all that here, so if you missed it, there is also a link to part 2 in this video's YouTube video description area. But what about Christians, and in some cases, whole Christian denominations, who interpret the Bible in a way that truly does embrace the full diversity of human sexuality and gender? True, there are some Christian churches who opposed and some who still oppose the legalization of same-sex marriage. However, there are other Christian churches who are happy to perform same-sex marriage, churches that will give a place of community to transgender folk who otherwise are pushed to the very margins of society, something for which I am truly grateful of a church that did that for me in a particularly vulnerable part of my life. What is more, they consider doing all these things to be a fulfillment of the full purpose for which Jesus set up the church. What about them? Well, their analog among the unicornists are the ones that I call the non-feeders. I'm talking about those who believe in a pink unicorn in their apartment who is invisible, inaudible, intangible, and in every other way undetectable, and when they observe that the food left for the unicorn is not eaten, they respond by concluding that, on top of everything else, the unicorn does not eat and has no need to eat. So, they stop leaving food for their imaginary pet. And the neighbors are grateful because there is no longer that uneaten food sitting there attracting flies, mice, rats, and other vermin. Likewise, these Christians, known as progressive Christians, have realized the harm caused by the anti-LGBT teachings inherent to Christianity. But instead of this leading them to question the very validity of Christianity in the first place, they instead found a way to reinterpret Christianity in a way that does not cause these particular harmful effects. And again, I truly am grateful that they did this. When I was stuck in East Tennessee, trapped in the margins of society due to being transgender, one such church found me and gave me a place of community where I otherwise had none. When I finally had a chance to move to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as a parting gift, they gave me a prayer plaque, which till this day is one of my most prized possessions, because though I no longer believe in God, I do believe in the people of that church. That said, while the path of progressive Christians is far superior to the previous 2 options of not embracing LGBT issues, it is not as good as the 4th option, the one analogous to those who realize that there is no invisible pink unicorn, i.e., those who not only got rid of the anti-LGBT teachings of Christianity, but also got rid of the general collection of unfounded beliefs that those anti-LGBT teachings are nested in. I am talking about those known as ex-Christian atheists. So, given all the ways that I have explained that progressive Christians are truly better than their more conservative counterparts, what harm is there in them keeping the parts of Christianity that give them comfort? Well, for starters, while they have chopped the tree of anti-LGBT bigotry down to the ground, they have not pulled it up by the roots. The source material in which my Bronze Age ancestors enshrined their anti-LGBT views, that's all still there. Those biblical verses that are used to persecute the LGBTQIA+ community, those are part of the Bible of every Christian church. And sorry to say, no, your local metropolitan community church is no exception to this. The Bible in those churches may have differing translations of the writings attributed to Paul of Tarsus that imported the anti-LGBT rants of the Hebrew Scriptures into New Testament law rather than letting them go the way of the prohibitions against eating shellfish and wearing mixed fabrics. But those original anti-LGBT prohibitions, I strongly suspect that those are still there, and even if their translations have found a way to gloss over those verses too, everyone knows that they are translations of the same Bible for which those other, far less affirming translations can be found. And as long as they keep propagating the attitude of treating this dusty old collection of books as being something special, they can always, no matter how unintentionally, contribute to someone following the trail and resurrecting those toxic teachings which they paid such a high price to put behind them. But then there is another problem inherent to progressive Christians. They have found a way to outgrow certain toxic teachings inherited from Christianity so as to be on the right side of history regarding LGBTQIA+ issues and possibly some other hot-button issues of today. But what about issues that future generations might face? Let us not forget that this is not the first time in history that Christians have struggled on toxic issues inherited through Christianity. Let us not forget the Bible says nothing condemning slavery except for the very narrow category of Egyptians enslaving Israelites. And in the New Testament, the only thing said on the matter is Paul of Tarsus telling slaves to be obedient to their masters. Still, despite all that, there were some Christian churches, albeit not others, that found ways to reinterpret the religion and had therefore come out on the right side of history, condemning slavery and then Jim Crow. But are the successors of those churches all progressive churches with regards to LGBT issues and other issues of today? Well, some of them are, but by no means all of them. Likewise, some of today's progressive churches could end up being on the wrong side of history when society tries to take the next step in its moral evolution. Furthermore, as many other atheist YouTubers have pointed out, even progressive Christians, by believing in a virgin birth and a resurrection and related stuff, extraordinary claims for which there is no sound evidence at all, they are establishing a precedent in their brain that it is okay to hold beliefs without any sound verification. This can open the floodgates to all kinds of ideas that lack any validity whatsoever. Now, does this mean that all skeptical atheists are going to be great, upstanding beacons of moral progress and completely immune to irrational views? No, not by a long shot. but at least we are not carrying the weight of books that claim to be divinely inspired. Yes, there are books that are held in high esteem by most in the atheist skeptic community, but none of these are treated as having anywhere near the same level of authority that even the most liberal of Christian churches attributes to the Bible. They are merely books written by human beings with no claim that they are inspired by anything other than the thoughts and observations of those same human beings. If Richard Dawkins, for example, writes something bigoted in The God Delusion, which, by the way, for the record, I think that there is far less of that than that book has a reputation for. But if I do find something like that in there, I do not have to find a way to reinterpret or reason around it. I am free to take whatever is in the book that I find to be of value and to openly and directly disagree with anything in it that I find problematic. I do not have to say that Dawkins is being metaphorical, and I certainly do not need to make up a story about how a word of the English language that Dawkins uses means something different than what just about any English speaker would understand it to mean. Rather, when the evidence seems to suggest it, I can simply and flatly say that he is wrong. So, while being an atheist does not give me moral perfection by any standard, I do maintain that I am far more free to evolve than even the most progressive Christian is. Yes, moving forward in morality is still serious work, but at least I do not have the weight of unfounded, unproven beliefs holding me back. Although it is still possible for unsubstantiated beliefs to creep into my mind, I have accepted an ethos that it is never okay to embrace that mindset, but have committed myself to rooting out such superstitions whenever I do find them. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this 3-part presentation. Please like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and leave your comment in the comments area below. Also, if you would like to support me making more of these videos, please visit my Ko-Fi page. You can also visit my Ko-Fi page if you want to see updates and announcements related to my channel that I am unable to deliver on YouTube due to my present channel size. You can find a link to my Ko-Fi page in this video's YouTube video description area. And until next time, see ya!